What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Blues people. Now, I'm on CST, right? Some of y'all are on PST. Some of y'all are on EST. Let's see who, how, where, why the whole thing. What's going on? I hope you all enjoyed your holiday weekend. Sister, what's happening with you? Hey now. That's my good dear sister right there. And she is definitely bluesed out. She's definitely of the culture. She promotes, endorses, encourages the cultural music. How you doing? I hope everyone is enjoying their Christmas, enjoying their Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Us in the Pearly home, the Jack Dappa Blues home, the African American Folklore's home. As we give pleasantries to the holiday joy, we don't necessarily engage in particular holiday beliefs. However, we believe every moment is a good moment to celebrate family, tribe, generation, tradition, the Most High, of course, first and foremost, as some say in the Black church, and I mean in all denominations, if you will, and ethnicities, those who believe in the Most High, they say it, the reason for the season. For us, we have traditions in our home. Some of the traditions that we have has to do with food and event. So I'm going to give you a little food ways ritual event story, if you will. So whether it's a holiday or a birthday, we have particular foods that we choose to eat. Now, of the Black church community or the Southern Black community, you know that we have a particular cuisine that we use or that we make to celebrate. And I feel safe to say most ethnicities, nationalities, if you will, and races have tribes, have folk groups and subgroups have particular dishes. I find it funny that for us, the blues people, the foods that we eat to celebrate is the food that we eat to when we're sad or sending someone home. Now, depending on your belief system, when we're sending one home, and when I say sending them home, when they transcend, that too can be a celebration depending on your beliefs. So in our home, and I've told the story to a few friends and colleagues. In our home, one of the traditions we do on birthdays is my wife makes fried chicken only on birthdays. This is something we agreed to. It was a designated tradition, a food waste tradition that the entire family agreed upon, right? And there was this one year, and my son is like my youngest son. He always like, yeah, fried chicken, fried. He's really happy and hype about it, as is my youngest daughter. All of my children, for that matter. However, this one year, LJ was like, no, I don't want fried chicken. I want dad to make his infamous burgers that he makes on holidays. So he's like, you sure? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I gets to making these burgers, and they came out great. And our oldest daughter came home from a long day at work. She was tired, maybe an hour train ride. Those of you familiar with New York train systems during rush hour after work understand, I don't have to get too extreme with the story for you to know. She had a moment, she had a time. So she came in and she opened the door because, in the building we lived in, when you got off the elevator, you could smell my wife's cooking. So she comes in the house and she has this look. She's extremely confused because she does not smell fried chicken. So she walks in the house and, well, where's the chicken? I've been waiting for the chicken all day. And I said, well, LJ didn't want chicken this year. He asked for hamburgers. And she flipped out. What are you talking about? This is a birthday day, and our tradition is fried chicken. Where's the damn chicken? I mean, it was hysterical. It was hysterical. But, I tell that story. I share that story. One, in hopes, a couple of things. If you all do not have a tradition in your nucleus household or in your folk group, in your community, perfect time. I believe start where you are. I believe start where you are. Create a tradition that you could pass down, that you can enjoy with your people that are alive, and then they can enjoy and remember you when you transcend. Even think about the traditions that you participated in with family members that have transcended, grandparents, aunts, uncles, stuff like that is why I share that. Our latest issue of the African American Folklores has been being mailed out the last couple of weeks today. And the first shipment and this shipment, they were big shipments. I sent some big stuff out. We have the Honorable Dr. Diana Beard and Dye as the Folklorist of the Month. You can actually check out, after you read the magazine, then you can actually go to the YouTube page to watch the entire interview with Dr. Ndai. Great, 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 beautiful, and extremely at the top of her intelligence, a professional woman, craft maker. I'm going to give you actually a snippet of our conversation before we move on. I was speaking to I don't remember if she was an archivist or curator here, and I was looking for something specific. It was a white lady at the archival part of the library here, and she said, unfortunately, not many African Americans give us things to archive or hold, so I wouldn't have much, and I walked away saying to myself, initially, it's a shame, but then I had to think a little bit longer. There has to be a reason why Black folk, for the lack of better, to keep it as broad as possible, don't trust certain institutions with this story.
Yeah, because I mean, the story has gotten distorted so many times, has been told wrong so many times, have been, there's so many instances, even within our field, within folklore, where that has happened. I mean, there's been great work done.
Yes.
There are folks who've been very conscientious and who I really think have done wonderful work. And but there's also a lot of distortion and kind of getting the story wrong, or at worst, using it as a way to look at Black people, to exoticize,
right,
and so on.
I mean, please make sure when you get the magazine, you read my interview with her. You can go check it out. The entire interview. She took the time to record that interview with me. She's in Senegal when we did the interview. She's international, and I have to say, one of the reasons why she, and most of the people that I champion, if you will, do what we do is because the fact that a lot of our story narrative has been presented incorrectly for whatever reason. Remember, those of you who have followed me or watched, listened to or read my content, you know that I don't think it's all malicious, right? In some cases, it's a victim of the circumstance of time, era, ideology, and societal norms of those moments. That doesn't make it right, but it's just a fact, right? Now, so that's why we do what we do, so we can actually put our stories in the proper context, as well as those of you who's follow or follows me know I believe everyone from every folk group should do that. Interrogate, investigate those documentations of others who documented you to make sure they got the story right, whatever, whoever you are, wherever you come from. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these articles. First and foremost, I want to shout out to the WKU Folk Studies graduate program. It's been suspended, but I love them to death. But we have some great articles in here. One of the articles in here, Desecration of Historic African American Cemetery in Avalon, Mississippi. It was written by Valerie Turner of Piedmont Blues for the Mississippi John Hurt Foundation. Miss Mary came across some disturbing information. She's actually not only come across disturbing information, she's dealt with a monstrosity, to say the least, that's going on in Mississippi. Those of you in the Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana area, and I think Ohio Valley area, who's heard my featured story on her for the African American folklorists. That's on NPR and WKU Public Radio. You heard Miss Mary speak to this herself. You can also check that out in the magazine. We have another series to the magazine outside of the featured series, which is the folklorist of the month, is Voices from the Past by Ebony Bailey, which is a great series. You should check out. I want to talk about one of the story that opens the magazine. This is not what we're talking about, but while we're here, we need to get to this and why you should purchase the magazine, why you should support the magazine. Talk about these two ladies, right? The reason I want to talk about those two ladies, first and foremost, Nasha Jolie interviewed Lady A. Do you all know who Lady A is? Miss Anita. She interviewed Miss Lady A about the situation, her fight to keep her name, something that happens to Black artists for years, and how white artists try to relieve her of her name. Nasha Jolie discussed that. But and when I say more importantly, I don't want to present it as if that story is not important. What I do, or what I would like to do, is thank Nasha and her Nasha Jolie and her mother Deidre Skinner. They've been humongous advocates for Jack Dappa Blues. Both of them passed. Deidre Skinner was on the board for Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. She was one of the initial board members, and one of the couple of board members that actually went above and beyond for not just the organization, but the vision I have that created the organization. And not even just for the organization, Deidre Skinner took to my wife, children, and I, not just our vision, but our person, who we are, who we were, gave words of encouragement to help us get from where we were to where we are today as human beings, let alone as professionals in the cultural and traditional arts business, if you will, in academia. She was a Harlem. She was of the Harlem community. Both were. I'm going to get to Nasha, her daughter. and they firsthand lived the Harlem experience. Before I get to Nasha, still speaking of Deidre, who passed first before her daughter, um, my guy Adam Gusso, who I have on the show often, I was talking about him and Satan, the blues artist from Harlem that he used to play with around Harlem, and they did some traveling and did some recordings with. And would you know, Deidre knew Satan and remembered Adam because she was there and she knew all the folks. Her daughter, Nasha, a writer, a novelist, if you will, and she wrote for the African American folklorists all four issues. And we worked together at New Amsterdam Musical Association, which is now known as NAMA Harlem. And we was working on the play too. And unfortunately, give or take, several months after her mother's passing, Nasha transcended. I don't feel the need to give you all the how it happened, but we want to celebrate their lives. And I personally thank them while they were alive for the many things they did and participated in with my family and I and our organization. Because again, Deidre was on our board and did a lot, and Nasha wrote for us, and we worked a lot, on the back end. And I just feel it's a huge loss. So we want to remember them and keep their memory alive. And speaking of new boards, uh, we're working on some new things, and we're adding new board members to the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. So just so you understand, right? Just so you know, again, those of you who are new and don't know, the African American Folklorist is an arm of Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. And the magazine is distributed through Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation, what we how can I put it? Well, before I even get into what we are and what we do, one of the reasons, besides having to shake it up and get some new perspectives involved in our mission, we're also looking to incorporate those of the region that we're in, those in Kentucky, those in Bowling Green, and the surrounding regions, because a lot of the work that I'm doing currently is local. And we'll get to that later because, Kentucky, I learned some great things about Kentucky. And when I say great things, the resilience is great. What happened to the black folk wasn't so great. What happened to the Indian folk wasn't so great. And that's what we're here to do. Because again, there's great black folk life, there's great Indian folk life. And some people see that there's a difference, but there it's hard to say. I don't really want to get into that aspect of the story, but there is a large percentage of us that are classified as African American that are really American, Amerindian, Indian, Chata, Seminole, Blackfoot. We can go down the list, right? And I believe it's becoming more prevalent right now. But more importantly, what we do at Jack Dapper Blues and why it's important. And so, just so you understand what we're doing here, we have one more day for our Facebook fundraiser. One more day for our Facebook fundraiser. One more day for our Facebook fundraiser. So I say that because right now it's a call for you all to please make sure, please, make sure you all don't make sure you all donate. We need your donations, right? What am I showing you? Well, this is the importance of what Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation does. When you speak of Black and Indian folk life, along with our music and our educational oral history, folks reach out to me and my organization, which is the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation, because we work to be the focal point or a focal point and repository of our folklore, traditional music, behaviors, and everything that goes along with that. Everything that goes along with that. And we produce multiple programs for the sole purpose of documenting our story through the many voices of those who've experienced our story, but also archiving it so it's accessible. Whether it's accessible to universities, specifically homeschool students, or if it's being accessible to those descendants of, because I get the opportunity through Jack Dappa Blues, excuse me, to speak with people like Mud Morganfield or the late great Joseph Morganfield or the descendants of P.D. Wheatstraw, right? And their story was great because in their story, they were able to get back, regain ownership, and then distribute their ancestors' intellectual property, where others are not able to do that. So this is another space that we find ourselves in because we help or connect dots for that to happen. You know, who else? I can go down the list of the many people that we look to raise their voice, raise the story, or better yet, get the story from the person. One of the things in our space or in our discipline, you know, it is hard for other to get the actual story. It's like it'll be hard for me as an outsider, and it could be for a Black person, a Black community, right? But they don't know who I am. They don't know me. They have to build a relationship, right? So what we do is we have those classified as African American, or as I like to call it, the blues people. We have these folk, right? Or when I say have these folk, we speak to these folk, we document these folk, or these folk document and present it to us. And we're the repository that holds the blues people's story. We're the repository that documents the blues people's story. But in order to do that, we need your donations. So again, Facebook fundraiser, our Facebook fundraiser ends tomorrow. So I'm coming on now talking to you about the organization, the great stuff that we do and have done and about to do, and share some information, but just to encourage you all to make sure that you actually donate to the mission, right? That you actually donate to the mission because we need you to. We need your donations. We need your donations because your donations help us. What? Your donations allow us to be the repository that we work to be. It helps us archive the works that needs to be archived. And again, we conduct a lot of research, interviews, and documentation through your donations. I recently spent a lot of time in Louisiana and New Orleans, right, in Algiers. And, it's ironic because this is where my family is from. One side of my family is from Congo Square. And I mentioned Congo Square. As you see the screen, I had the good pleasure to interview a great brother, New Orleans own, Congo Square own, Algier own, Glenn David Andrews. You could follow him on Instagram, which I do, you know. And we had a great conversation. You can go check in the description to see that interview, right? I was also recently interviewed by a Dr. Kate Lister on her History Hit podcast, Betwixt the Sheets. I think I said that right. By the way, I just put that donation link in the chat. And she asked me on the podcast to discuss the history of the blues, possibly including the dirty blues and the genre's influence on white folk. Now, first of all, that was a great interview and that she conducted with me. Again, the reason why I bring that up is because the work that I've been able to do through your donations, which made Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation begin to get sustainable footings, that culminated into Dr. Kate Lister's associate producer finding my work. But it was because the donations y'all gave and then the work I was able to do through those donations, the work the team that I have were able to do through those donations. And we spoke about a lot. And here's how that interview relates to Louisiana, or more specifically, New Orleans, right? More specifically, New Orleans, is because we got into the conversation of Storyville. As always, anytime I speak about the blues, particularly when New Orleans, Louisiana comes up, I always bring up Chris Thomas King. And I don't want to say his theory, but I got quiet because I'm trying to figure out how to word this because I see where he's coming from, and I don't necessarily agree based on my studies. And my peoples come from Louisiana and Mississippi, both. But I do understand what he's saying. So I don't want to just say, well, this is his theory, because it's not a theory. One. And two, what you're looking at, by the way, is the landscape of Storyville back in the day. Right, you can see the block number and things like this. This is the language or that you may hear on like a crime drama if you're not like really into blocks and things of this nature, right? But that's neither here nor there. But Chris Thomas King, when discussing the blues, makes the argument. I don't want to say the claim. Claim is the wrong word. He makes the argument that the blues started in Louisiana, New Orleans to be exact, but Louisiana, Congo Square, right, which goes back to Glenn David Andrews, right? But Louisiana, he says the blues starts, and then by his definition of the blues is the play of the French word bleu, meaning risque, right? X-rated. Now, why is that important? How does this? And by the way, you can go to Jack Dappa Blues or the African American Folklorist Spotify or Apple Podcasts to hear my interview with Chris Thomas King about the blues and its origins in New Orleans. The conversation stems from his piece written about being voted out, not being uh not receiving a Grammy nomination for a blues album. That's what predicated this conversation, right? But his definition is the blues blue, and it means risque, right? It means X-rated. And then again, why is this important? Words mean something. Etymology means something. Space means something. Space means something in the big picture, if you will, of the word and the use of the word. Risque, burlesque, X-rated. Storyville was the red light district where all the parlor and brothels were. And this is where, if you don't want to say that specific location is where the blues was born, that is fine. That is fine. However, it may not be far-fetched to say that is the location or one of the locations. I like showing that picture. One of the locations that the blues was cultivated in. So Leadbelly Huddy, he played old time music. He played hold down music, or what some call songster music, string band. You know, that was a black thing. Well, I don't even want to use that term because we're not crayons, but I think you understand what I'm saying. But when he got to Storyville, that's where he learned about the blues, right? So let's talk about Storyville for a bit before we move on, because you know the district got the name Storyville as a nickname, which it comes from a councilman, Sidney Story, who wrote the legislation and guidelines to be followed within the proposed neighborhood limits. What does that mean? The 38 block area was bounded by. His vision came from port cities that legalized prostitution and was officially established on July 6, 1897. Now, no, we're gonna. Oh no, we're not stopping there. There's a couple of things that has to be uh, discussed, right? First and foremost, we're talking about post-emancipation, where the blues takes on a different meaning because now the blues is being participated with and by free blacks. Now, if I now's not the time to really get into what freeman means and how the reclassification works, because to jump ahead a bit, an Oklahoma doctorate and blues musician explains this. But more importantly, Storyville comes to life when the blues takes on a different meaning. It takes on the meaning of the Badman. You can read about the Badman in many books. One of my favorite books is back here somewhere that talks about that is All God's Children, right? And a lot of the folklore and legends that come out of the black man that's not taking no stuff from a white power structure, a black woman that's not taking no stuff from a white power structure, comes out of this era, and you see a lot of that kind of music. And it kind of also we're looking at solo artists, and not just um, choral singing, field hollers, because everybody's not working in unison, uh, if you will. Now, for decades, most of this former district was occupied by housing projects, and majority of them are demolished. And it's 2 blocks from the French quarters. Now, I've spent many a nights in the French Quarter with my family as a little boy, not knowing what the hell's going on, and the young man knowing all too well what was going on. But the district was established to restrict prostitution to one area, and it was a legalized red light district, if you will, like I said. And the thing here, which is really amazing, is the music that comes out of here, the people that comes out of here, the elite that was in this space. It was, it's amazing. It's just amazing. But I want to talk about the uh how do we say this? The naughty sister of the Green Book. Have you guys ever heard of the naughty sister of the Green Book, which is called the Blue Book? See, we get so fixated on certain things, we miss the whole entire thing. There's a man, there's a great gentleman. When I was interviewing him, I was working to get him to say what I wanted him to say. And he knew it, and he would not do it. And he drugged me, and I tried to, and he just and he eventually says to me, to get to the truth, you got to go in like a blank page, not going into something trying to prove your theories correct, just going in to try to learn. And that changed my entire outlook, which got me to this point. Again, this live is about our fundraiser. And if you miss our Facebook fundraiser, I'll also put the link so you can still donate, because through your donations, this work is possible. So he tells me, ultimately, open your mind, Quaid. Open your mind, Quaid, so I don't miss anything. And a lot of people, I don't want to say that. What I will say is there's a chance, a probability, a strong possibility that some folk that think they know about the blues or New Orleans or all these places may not know about the Blue Book, but they know about the Green Book. Now, the Green Book was a middle class tool, a middle class to upper middle class tool. Black folk that traveled, Black folk that had good jobs and cars and homes, right? Again, if you're just joining us, that's Storyville in New Orleans. The Blue Book, they were published in Storyville. These were the guides to prostitutions for visitors. So, in other words, if you wanted to know where it was popping at, where you can get your goods, if you will, what parlor, what brothel, what kind of girl, who's playing what, and who's playing where, you get yourself a Blue Book as a visitor of the community, if you will, because it was a community. There's a documentary on Storyville that is like so hard to get your hands on. So this book, right, included prices, house descriptions, whatever services you wanted that was offered. Right? And the motto was order of the garter. Shame on him who thinks evil of it. Do you understand? I mean, these folk wasn't playing. These folk wasn't playing. But guess what? The blues was there. The blues was in Storyville in New Orleans. Um, damn, not Tampa Red. What is I can't I forgot his name. I hate that. But the blue book was purchased for 25 cents. Okay. And it just gave you the information. It was advertisement for sex workers and where in this area that you can get hooked up, if you will. And it also gave you the categories of black women, white women, Jewish women, French women, or octoroon women. And in these places, again, you will have the blues, right? You will have the blues. Okay. And so now that's not the only place. Oh, you thought it was that's not the only place. That's not the only place. Oklahoma. Now I showed this already. I should have had a piece of this just so I could play it for you. Because Oklahoma, where everyone believes they know the story of Tulsa, I was one of those people, and I found out recently that there was so much more to the story that those of us on the outside or who do not descend directly from these communities don't know. Um, man, there was just so you can, and it's also in the description because I was able to speak to some good brothers about what actually happened in Greenwood, which is a community in Tulsa. Okay, brother Carlos Moreno and Karish Ali Lansana doing great work. They're doing great work. And you can check them, hear them, see them. In my description is the link to our live interview. Okay. So now, Black Oklahoma Blues. Oh, you didn't think there was such a thing, did you? There is such a thing. And before I even speak about that, again, the purpose of this and the folks that you just saw, I was able to honor them with plaques for the work that they do, have done, continue doing, and so forth because of the donations received by you all. So I went to Tulsa with the American Folklore Society annual convention. And for that convention, I do an annual, what's called African American Traditional Music History and the Black Experience, right? In that, I speak with active, what I call Black traditional music practitioners, the blues people. And we discuss the, or if not discuss, we put in a proper context the story of the blues people. Okay. This year we were in Oklahoma, so what we discussed was Black Oklahoma Blues, and it was held at the Woody Guthrie Center Theater in Tulsa. It was sponsored by the American Folklore Society local planning committee, which includes the Oklahoma State University, the library there, the Arts Council, and quite a few other people that I met that were great. And I look forward to working with them again. You can also check Jack Dappa Blues radio.tv, the radio website, the archival website, and you can see the article I wrote about this, or the journal I wrote about this. What I did was I placed that in a description as well. Okay, it was also sponsored by the American Song Archives, which is at the Woody Guthrie Center and the Bob Dylan Center. Guess who else sponsored it? Jack Dapper Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. And that was with your donations. And we worked with, I mean, oh my goodness. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Because this was actually the highlight of my year. If there was anything for me to say, I mean, there was a lot of things that was great, but this was really great. And I'm gonna break down who these folk are. Okay. So the topic this year was how Mississippi and Chicago and locations within them are popular locations when discussing the blues. However, there were many regions that cultivated the musical expression. Black Oklahoma, my God, there's so just that black, just saying Black Oklahoma, because there's so many moving pieces to that title, has a unique history within itself. And the blues birth there is birthed from a style known as Texas hot box, Texas hot box blues. Okay, so for this year's panel, I sat with Oklahoma blues folk that understood the not just the story of the blues people, the movement of the music, but the culture of the people and the sections of Black Oklahoma, what it meant, um, the traditions, but also the oral history, what really was going on. So if we go my right, possibly your left, the tall gentleman with the cowboy hat is Dr. Harold Aldridge. He does what's called edutainment, right? He calls himself an infotainer. Okay. Now he breaks down that by the, how can I put this? Oh, I know how I could put this. I have it in the description. You should watch the panel. Next to him, the little lady there is Miss Selby Minner. She now owns and operates the DC and Selby's Blues Club, which is also part of the DC Minner's Dust Till Dawn Blues Festival. She also runs the juke joint in there and the museum on the location, right? As well as the Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame. Oh, I'm not finished. One of the reasons why I got excited is because Dr. Harrell was explaining that once they started shortening Indian territory, those that were Indians that were born outside of this territory was called Black, Negro, and Freedmen's. Ooh, wait a minute. What does that mean? Ooh, wait a minute. What does that mean? Ooh, wait a minute. What does that mean? Blacks born outside of Indian territory. Let me rephrase that. Indians born outside of Indian territory was classified as black. Copper-colored Indians born outside of Indian territory, particularly starting in Oklahoma, was classified as Negro, was classified as black. Yeah, I stopped because I wanted to be dramatic. And the gentleman with the cowboy hat, that's one of the things that he shared. Let me see if I have this on my desk because he has it. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have this right here. I hope y'all hear me because they have, do I have what Miss Selby were? Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I love it. 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 So here I was able to see the gentleman perform, as did everybody that was in attendance that night. And we had a huge, huge, huge audience. Again, I was able to do a lot of this through the AFS, through those on the ground that helped, and also through your donation. So make sure y'all donate to Jack Dappa Blues. So this, where am I? There we go. Am I holding right? There we go. Dr. Harold Aldridge Jr. History of the Blues. Okay? History of the Blues. Okay? So I'm going to read this for those who couldn't see. It says, these are the folk that helped him do it. Okay, I thought this was he did gives me a summary of it, but it's okay. But if you notice, Dusk Till Dawn Blues Festival. So he recorded at the Dusk Till Dawn. He recorded this at the DC Minter or the DC and Selby or the Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame. That's out there. It's a great location. Lord knows I plan to go back out there. And Miss Selby invited me to come perform at their blues festival. See, she's not playing. A lot of people talk that, but she invited me to come get it in. Same as the International Folk Alliance invited me to come in. Now this comes from, excuse me. Here's something else. Earlier, those that's been here, we spoke about food waste. So this comes from the Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame farm. And this is Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame Cooking with the Blues Cookbook. Now don't worry, because like I said, I'm going to be back down there or over there to talk with Miss Selby again, and the many folks that I was able to, like Miss May, who wasn't part of the panel, but Miss May, there's something funny. I said, so Miss May being African American, and she said, honey, I'm not African American, I'm Indian. My daddy told me who I was. She's out there in Oklahoma as well. Now, the lady, the brown skin lady in the leather pants, that's Miss Wanda F. Macon. She is the blues. She is the blues. The gentleman next to Miss Wanda, who is next to me with the fedora on, that is Mr. Walter Taylor III. Mr. Walter Taylor III. He's a drummer, a singer, and he gets busy. Okay? And again, the little lady right there, the fiery little lady, that's Miss Selby Minter. And you all know who that is. That's me. And I was able to give these folk their just due, as folks say now, their flowers, because of the donations received by you all. This is inside the Juke on the farm. Again, that's Dr. Harold Aldridge. That's Miss Selby. I forget this brother's name right there, the hippie looking type of brother, but he was very cool and he's always there. Again, you can go to the jackdapperblues.tv to read what I call my ethnographic journal on the trip and experience with these good folk. Here's my collage, Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame. You know, your donations go a long way, and your donations allow us to do most of these things, if not all. And again, if you cannot make the Facebook fundraiser donation in time, let me know. Reach out to me. I'll give you the link of where you can donate. Where you can donate. Okay? Oh, look at this. This is Miss Shirley Moody Turner. Why is she on the screen? Because she is the next African American folklorist of the month for the next issue that's being worked on right now. Okay? So I guess I should just so you know, and those of you who's been on this ride for a long time, you know the African American Folklorist is a cultural news magazine that contains articles about traditions, traditional beliefs, the cultural context, geographical locations, music, and vernaculars of those classified as African American and the role each element plays in the lives of the people past and present. Okay, it is a arm, a department, and is distributed by the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. It also furthers the mission of the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation by publishing, y'all hear me? By publishing content of and from various Black communities that discuss the evolution of our traditions as the blues people. What does that mean? What does that mean? Black Indian, Pan African, Black Muslim, Black Christian, Black Magic, Black LGBTQ, Black Witch, Black Warlock, Black Minister, Black Orisha, Southern Black, Urban Black, Midwest Black, Black Appalachia. You name it. If it's part of the culture, tradition, heritage of those classified as African American, it will be in this book, this magazine. Now, understand something. And I didn't. Black gaming, Black futurism, or as they call it, Afrofuturism. The many names that were given to us from the time of arrival, not our arrival, other folk arrival, because we've been here, to now. What's happening? I see it. You know? So, and it's just funny because, you have some people that, I mean, a lot of people don't like the term African American. I'm not going to harbor on that too much at this point, only because that's not what this is about. I've spoken about this, but that's not what this is about. However, what I will say, all of those things that I just mentioned constitute the African American culture. So when they say you don't have a culture and you're Black American, that is not true. In this magazine, and Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation presents this information for you through oral history, through folkloristic interviews, broadcasts, whether it's podcasts or features, videos, whatever. Share the story of the people classified as African American. And it's done through the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation with your help. With your help. Now, you could become a Patreon. That's the best way to be a member. All right. And that way, every time a magazine comes, it goes right to you because you pay monthly to subscribe. Any behind the scenes or different whatever programming that is specific to our subscribers and members goes to you. Okay. You can also purchase the magazine as one-offs. Right now, I'm direct to market retailing, so you reach out to me. But we're working on a system that is reliable, so you can do it through the website. Okay. We also have some new projects from the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. I'm not yet at liberty to discuss, but what I will tell you this is I'm actually participating in an MIT fellowship through a partnership with WKU and MIT in Boston. Okay. And this grants me access and allows collaborations at the new and improved WKU Innovation Campus, which is the central region for ecosystems of art, technology, and entrepreneurialism. Why am I? And there's many folks that are taking part in that wonderful location and the wonderful programming there. But the reason why I mentioned that is because out of there, I was able to some of them was a couple was birthed already, but we're cultivating some seeds planted to push the work forward collaboratively. And when I say push the work forward, the work of Jack Dappa Blues, if you all are unaware of what the work is, are you actually unaware of what the work is? Because if you are, I'll be so surprised. Because I think you know what the work is and the work that we do. So we're cooking some stuff up. And you know, we haven't even spoke about the great folks that we're working with, like Mr. Walto, Chief Warhorse, Marquise as usual, you know, and then the great folk here like Mr. Michael Golf, Mr. Michael Morrow, you know. Um and I have not even mentioned the Allen County African American Heritage Council, right? Here in Kentucky, Scottsville, I believe. So, you know, we're doing some great things, but again, the work is predicated based on your donation and grants. And we working and we got a couple of good grants too. But your help will take us to the next level, you know. And I can't forget mask off with my brothers, you know, that is that is highlighted on the Jack Dapper Blues platform. All right. So we'll speak some more later. But remember, tomorrow's the last day. Get your donations in. Okay? Get your donations in. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your holiday and your vacation if you don't have to go back to work.